Hello, really happy to do this toe reading for you. In toe reading, there are different energies that are represented by different parts. So the left side, the left foot represents your internal self, your connection with source, the way that you communicate with yourself, the ways that you take action for yourself, your relationship with self, and your right foot represents all things exterior. So the way that you move through the world, the way others experience you, your perceptions, all of those things are the left side. And then each of the toes has a unique energy. The left big toe is your spirit path toe, and the right big toe is your life path toe. The other four toes um, have the same energy. It's just is it external or internal. So the second toe is communication and expression. Third toe is action. Fourth toe is relationship. And fifth toe is trust and prosperity. And the first thing I noticed about your toes was these very straight action toes. You are a person of action. The action that you take is actually a really important part of your identity. I would guess that acts of service is one of your primary languages of affection, where you feel loved and you show love through action. And so just really taking that action. You sometimes feel thwarted or held back or blocked when you're trying to take action outside of yourself or for an external purpose or for like working in a team or things like that. Not a lot, just if you look, like when you say something, you're like all about it. Your internal drive is so admirable and exemplary. And the way that you take action out in the world is also very, very healthy, very driven. And my only recommendation on this toe is when you feel thwarted or blocked in any way, just intentionally set an intention for that to just be released through that toe. Just, okay, all right, I release that. I can't control others, so I release that. You probably already have a practice around that releasing in some way. And so I would add to it, releasing it through the action toe. One of the reasons why I love releasing through the toes is because they're right next to the earth, and the earth is the great renewer of the energy. And so releasing it just goes down into the earth to be renewed. So beautiful, beautiful action toes. Let's talk about these communication toes. So time tracks in the toes. So back here, closer to the foot, is early in your life or even before you came into this lifetime. And then it tracks out. What's happening in the nails is the most recent. And so what's happening here in the top. So as a child, and we can see this really in primarily these communication expression toes, a little tiny bit in the action toes, but primarily here. And I know that you've done a lot of work on this. By acknowledging where it's sitting in the toes, by consciously being aware of that, I have seen like the thing that people have been working on for years and years and years suddenly releases, simply because we brought awareness to it in the toes. That's what I intend for you, my friend, is that by acknowledging the way as a child that you are not permitted to communicate or to express is living here in these toes. And so I set the intention and ask that can be released from the toes and from your life, that you can remember it as part of your wound in this life, so that you can have compassion towards others who are experiencing something similar, and that it no longer impacts you in any way other than memory and for the highest and best good. So releasing that inability to express the frustration around not being able to communicate or to express. You are a good communicator, and communication is important. In fact, communication and action, those two things, that is where your purpose lies, is in taking action and being able to communicate about that action, being able to communicate and teach. And I know that this is a realm that you've really moved into, is this teaching. That is very much some of your gifts and talents that you have, and that is part of your purpose to bring about in this life, is this communication combined with action that will lead to that. There is just some blocked energy here in the tip of this toe. If you look, just for context's sake, the top of this toe is significantly puffier than this toe. This is your communication with self. You really do speak honestly with yourself. You are aware. You are willing to shine a light on the corners and the things that don't want to have a light shined on, and then communicate with yourself in a very high level way. I want to compliment you on that. That is such a gift. That's a skill to develop, because so many times we will speak nice on the outside, but inside we're speaking to ourselves in a way that we would never speak to anyone else. Again, some of this blocked energy, this thwarted, that's the word that keeps coming into my mind, this thwarted energy, where you've done all the action, you've said all the things, you've done the stuff, and then there's this block outside. So let's just take a moment to think about what those blocks are. What are some of the things that you feel stop you when you've done all the things and you hit that wall? What is that wall made up of? And I invite you to journal about that a little bit. I would also invite you to gently massage all of your toes. It's good for them. They love it. And especially these two toes here, the action toe, releasing that frustration energy, and the communication toe, especially here at the tip, because you can see you've got some stuff from when you were a child. We've already set the intention for releasing that. By gently massaging that can help to release it. And then some stuff more recently, questioning yourself and your way of communicating. That's another thing that's really coming up. I just feel this energy of frustration from those two toes. And so I would just really recommend to shine a light on that frustration, and what are the parts of that frustration that make that up. All right, let's talk about your relationship toes. And again, your relationship toes, when you look at the side by side of the relationship toes, and I know this was covered up just a little bit by this carpet, but still more blocked energy, more curvature, less nails showing than on this relationship toe. Now, both of these toes could use some massage, so just gently massaging them. The purpose of the massage is to just invite the energy to move in a different way, and to really place the intention upon that. Your relationship with self. Biggest things here, stop gaslighting yourself. Stay off the hamster wheel where you just think, overthinking. That can be a little bit of one of your weaknesses, is that overthinking, some of that shadow. So massaging and working on this toe, although this toe really, I want to compliment you on the personal work that you have already done, and that you are kind and gentle with yourself most of the time. This is relationship with those outside of us. And there's some protection going on here, a feeling that you need to protect yourself. So examining, why do you feel like you need to protect yourself? Oh, and here it comes. That was an energetic release. Sneeze, cough, clearing throats, yawns, tears. Those are energetic releases for me, which means I've touched on something that is energetically prominent and important for you. So this protection, how are you protecting yourself? How does that show up? How can you have barriers that aren't battle lines? Do you need barriers, not the right word, boundaries that aren't battle lines? And where would having additional boundaries serve you? We're going to come to that. Actually, we're going to talk a lot about that when we get to these first toes here, because it has a lot to do with these relationships. You're good at relationships. I want you to just embrace that. You are good at relationships. It's boundaries in who you get into relationships with. That's what that toe is saying. And lastly, let's talk about prosperity and trust. So the trusting here. Just look at your relationship with trust. Are you too trusting or not trusting enough? Or are there different circumstances in which you are too trusting or not trusting enough? Based on what I know about you, you have a lot of reasons to not trust people. And I think that you're aware enough that you've done a lot of work around that. And is it possible that you are too trusting of people? One of the things that I see a lot, especially people who have done a lot of work, is because we understand that everything's a story and a perception. When people that actually won't work for us come to us, we fall in love with their potential. We fall in love with who we know that they can be if they would just do the work. And it's sad, but statistically true that 9 times out of 10, people don't do the work. And so they stay this seed of potentiality that never sprouts and blooms. You are at a place in your life, in your personal evolution, where being in a relationship with someone who is actively involved in the work is important. And trust yourself to discern on that. And if there's something that doesn't feel right about someone, don't gaslight yourself. And gaslighting for somebody like you would be like, oh, I'm being judgmental, or I see their potential and I know that that's what they can be, or, like things like that. Things that are actually very evolved thinking, not just choosing to dislike someone because, of whatever, or choosing to not become close with someone because of something that is a perspective, a story, or based on intuition. If you feel that niggling that it's not going to work for you, it's not going to work for you. And I would just encourage you to trust yourself and step away from that. Your soul family is made up of people who have done the work and who are doing the work, and you're one of them. This is your trust and prosperity toe over here on the right side. I know you do a lot of prosperity and abundance and manifesting work. So here's a cool way that you can up level that. And that would be to gently rub both of your little toes. Just, if you're sitting cross-legged or whatever, just gently rub those toes, even with a little bit of lotion or oil, essential oil, and just rub those toes. Inviting the energy to open up into an open channel of prosperity, manifestation, and abundance. That's your earth toe. So bringing into the earthly reality your deepest desires. Okay. These toes honestly look really like you've done a lot of work and that you're on the right path. That's just a fun way to up-level it. Now, the biggest message, the one that I've saved for last with your toes, has to do with this curve here on both of your feet. When there's an angle here like this, it means that you are compromising yourself for others or for another ideal or something like that. But it's self-compromise. It's quote unquote bending over backwards, perhaps to keep the peace. And I know that that's something that you became aware of recently, that you would bend over backwards. You do everything to try and keep the peace, to try and get your needs met. Yeah. Okay. There's in the Carolyn Miss archetype work, and I'll share this with you. Every single person on the planet, oh yeah, this is right. Just a minute. Excuse me. So here's another big one. And when we get together, we can work on casting an archetypal chart for you. But every single person has 4 archetypes. Everyone has an inner child. Everyone has a victim. Everyone has a saboteur. And everyone has a prostitute. Now, when we think of things like victim, saboteur, these things, it can be like we only think of the negative side. But remember, every side, every card, every coin has 2 sides. So what's the flip side of the victim? What's the flip side of the saboteur? In your case, what I'm seeing archetypally is the prostitute. And the question around the prostitute is, what are you willing to compromise in your integrity for safety? And that safety could look like safety in a relationship. That safety could look like a desire to make a relationship work. You're super, super smart. So there's, the physical side of a relationship, meaning, shared possessions and things like that. So in what ways are you selling yourself short? That's this bend in this toe for security of some kind. Maybe that security is peace. Maybe that security is physical safety. Whatever it is, identifying that is going to be a really powerful practice for you to start to unravel this archetype that lives in all of us. It's willing to compromise integrity for safety, for security. I want to tell you what will happen as you train this energy, as you invite this energy to move more straightforward, as you stand your ground in love and light and energetically project where your boundaries are so that you don't have to guard them with a sword, so that it's not a point of battle, but so that it's just a boundary that people respect because they respect you and because that's who you attract. So I would invite you to push in gently on this protrusion here and then push out on the top of the toe. So it's really a motion like this if I was working on the right foot, or like this if I was working on the left foot. And just inviting that energy to flow. Now, here's the great blessing of doing that and having this energy track more straight. 1, your spirit path is going to be much clearer, and you are going to have that much more power to empower people. Your life path is also going to get more focused and more clear. And as if that wasn't a blessing enough, this space right here between your first and second toe, that's your channel of intuition. So I know you do a lot of intuitive work and that you're highly intuitive. What if this toe is tracking straight? All that intuition, that channel of intuition would just whoosh. And I know you are around your Uranus opposition in your natal chart, which we can talk about more when I run those other charts for you. But that is when women and men, if we allow ourselves become more intuitive, to become more guided by spirit. And that's what will happen when these toes are tracking straight. Additionally, the space that you have between your toes here, that's the leadership toe. You're meant to be a leader. You are a trailblazer. You are a pioneer. You are a game changer. And so by continuing to do the work and in this new way that maybe you haven't thought of before because of the energy of the toes, remember the energy of the toes is the energy of the earth. And the universe has your back and the earth has your back. Please let me know if you have any questions about this reading. And I've really loved doing this for you. Thank you.